Good afternoon, everyone. 2 p.m. Sec 2 E-Math lesson. I hope you are ready, because I am as well. Let's get on to it over here. Alright, so I believe you guys know what we are doing, but again, just some formalities. General rules, just be patient and understanding. Observe gracious and respectful behavior, even in digital space. So as you are typing, which I recommend you all to if you all need any help. So along ways at times I will put in some mini Q&A sessions if you all need. And lastly, ask good and relevant questions. Okay, so as you all know what happens, we are going through the set A, in this case paper 2, that means the set A is coming soon. We are continuing further questions, and in this case specific questions over here to what we need to cover. Okay, so again, just some main important pointers to take note. What is the difference between the old and the new syllabus? Okay, 90 marks, 2 hours and 15 minutes long. Again, not much questions, 9 to 10 questions over here. Main thing is your last question will always be based on a real world scenario, so just take note from there. And lastly, approved calculators allowed, same as paper 1. Okay, so what happens? Okay, again, we are just going through certain questions over here to follow. So if you need me to actually slow down in certain explanations, feel free to let me know. Okay, so the different type of questions we are going through, in this case, first one over here, question 6A. Quite straightforward, calculate the value of P. So just take note over here, what is the value of P we are going to calculate? It's the Y value, which is essentially this value over here. So over here, very simple substitution, okay? Mainly you will see this in Sec 2 as well, but they can test you over here as such. So what happens, all you need to do, substitute in the respective X value over here, which is none other than substituting here, here, and this value as such. So all you need to do, just be careful when you're substituting this particular value, put in your calculator. When you have the squares, even though there's no negative sign for this case, recommended you put a brackets to play safe, okay? Keep it a habit as well, okay? Minus my X over here, which corresponds, and an X over here. Key in, type in your calculator, you will have some string of values, but take note over here, I only want 2 decimal places. Very important. So give your answer to 2 decimal places over here. 0.42. If you give me 0.42 and any other digits, though your answer first 2 digits decimal places is correct, but you aren't expressing it in that manner, you will still not get it right. So just be very careful. Very standard question. It will be fine. Okay, so this will be fine. Next up, okay, connecting the dots. Okay, just make sure you connect it nicely over here, whereby my P in this case is 0.42. Let me just write it out. 0.42 over here as such. Okay, this is my P. So from here, all we need to do over here essentially, okay, let me just write it a bit nicer. Oh yes, for the students here that are coming in, just to inform you, while I am writing the value of 0.42, okay, for your next 4 lessons in September, we have actually going to cover another mock paper, paper 1 and paper 2. So do download them in your Genie Ask platform for your September lessons, while I write my 0.42. Yeah, here, there we go. Then all we need to do afterwards is just to link the dots. So from here, this is your 1 and 0, 1 and 2, 1.5, 0.42, 2 and 0, 2.5, 0.35, okay, and so on and so forth. 3, 3.54 for your X values, 1.33, 2.89, and 5 for your Y values. And just make sure you join them smoothly over here. Okay, I understand it's not really a smooth curve over here, so apologies on my side, but make sure it is straighter. Okay, you have a eraser as well, so one thing you can do, erase the parts whereby it's not smooth, or you can use a curve ruler to actually draw this out. It's easier for you. Okay, for those A math, especially with your trigo graphs, okay, curve rulers are your best friends, okay, but for those who do not take A math, recommended, if it's a curve like this, use a curve ruler. That will come in handy. Okay, so that's the second part, just drawing a curve. Okay, nothing much over here. To just draw the lines over here. Okay, now over here what happens? Okay, from drawing the curve, they can ask you different type of questions. So what happens? In Sec 3, you have learned how to estimate the gradient, okay, as such. So for A math, what happens? For such questions, you can actually use a dy dx to help you check your answer. Okay, please do not use your A math concept to answer here, as you might not get the credit as such, because they are asking you to, main thing over here, use your graph. So you have to use the graph. You can use the AMAth concept to check, but remember to substantiate by estimating the gradient over here, which in this case, the things you have to do, draw the gradient, okay, what you have learned in Sec 3E. Draw your gradient over here at the point to 0.5. So this is your gradient at my point to 0.5. Okay, so that's the main thing you have to do. And from here, of course, when you estimate, there might be some parallax error over here, but it shouldn't be too far. Your answer can deviate a bit, in this case by 0.05. Usually the case can deviate, but usually by the notion of 0.05 to 0.1, okay, plus minus 0.05 to plus minus 0.1, okay, plus minus 0.05 because of reading your values here. So example, in this case, when I read this value, it can be 3.7 to 2, but sometimes, or rather, we can read this as 3.65, 1.95, or a little bit more, similar to my value over here. So, of course, that's where your calculation comes in, but it should not deviate too far. So, just be very careful, make sure your gradient touches here, and your line is as straight as possible. In this case, it's a rather straight line over here, yeah? Okay, so just make sure you have those points, and remember when you calculate your gradient, main important points to take note. Okay, this is your y2 minus y1. This is a sec 3 coordinate geometry over x2 minus x1. Okay, so over here, that's where you link it. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Main important pointers to take note. Okay, so that's how we link from sec 3 to estimating over here to how we calculate a gradient formula. Just be very careful. Get a string of digits. Okay, string of digits, how many to write? Okay, we call from the previous tip over there. Okay, right up to, in this case, 5 to 7 significant figures. Okay, this is your previous tip as well. Always write up to 5 to 7 significant figures to make sure that your answer is as accurate as possible before we go to 3SF. Okay, very, very important down here in order to ensure their answer is accurate as possible to reduce the errors made due to estimating. Okay, this question may be quite simple, but a lot comes into play because one, we are estimating. Two, over here, there is a string of digits over here, so we are further estimating. So things to take note of when we actually calculate for questions that require estimation. Even though this is only 2 marks. Okay, over here 2 marks. What they are looking out for, in this case, your gradient formula, what numbers you're plugging in, and the answer. Okay, apologies, I think I didn't look out for the marks and answer over here. 3 marks what they are looking for, 1 mark for the shape. Okay, let me just write this down. Okay, sorry for going back. 1 mark for the shape, okay, 1 mark for the correct points. Okay, and also, lastly, 1 mark for, okay, in this case, 1 mark for the shape, 1 mark for the correct points, and 1 mark for using the correct value over here. Okay, making sure all the values are correct because you're using 0.42, so that's where you carry it over from there. Okay, the 1 mark for using this one. Okay, the previous one is only 1 mark, it's just evaluating. Okay, so back to this notion over here, another type of question they can ask is, okay, this is 2 marks. So we have this question over here. The line, it's a bit different. Now, for some of you, I know you have done it, so good job over there. But for the rest who did not do it, okay, I'll give you at least, I would say, 30 seconds extra. Okay, 1 minute extra before I start the question over here. How do we actually solve this equation by making use of this equation over here? Okay, so I'll give you about 1 minute extra to actually sort of think through this before I launch the bubble launcher, okay, for the benefit of those who did and did not, okay, to actually solve this. Alright, so 1 minute, get started over here. And yes, I'll launch the bubble launcher at 2:10. Okay, so take your time, work accordingly. Meanwhile, for the rest, okay, just make sure that even though you have got the solution, check them through and make sure it is the correct one while we wait for them all. Okay, I'll start at 2:10. I'll launch it. Remember, same thing over here. Your bubble questions are going to be 30 seconds long only. Okay, 30 seconds long. Okay, I'm going to launch it in 10 seconds. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, launching it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. See the feedback. Awesome. All right, be careful when you work through it. Very important. You have the last 18 seconds. All right, last 5 seconds. Around there. For those who've yet to answer them accordingly. Last 3, 2, 1. Okay, for those who have answered, okay, you've gotten it down. Very good over here. You've gotten it down. Awesome down here. But for those who did not and answer the other option, just be careful. Okay, most of the answers are deviating towards your algebraic manipulation. Okay, so just be careful. Okay, so how do we solve this question? Now, for such question like this, we want to see definitely how we can link this equation to this equation down here. So let's write it down first. 2x squared minus 5x plus 8 over 4x minus 4 equals to 0. Now let's look at this. What do you think is the first step that we can do to link this one to this equation over here? Can anyone give me a suggestion? What can I do over here? For those who have answered it, maybe you can just write it out. For those who have just answered it and got it correct, you can write it down as well to help those everyone. Okay, that is one thing as well. You can do that. Yep, that's good as well. That is one way we can do it, Denise. Anyone else wants to give it a try? Okay, so while we wait for the replies, okay, Denise mentioned has one technique over here. You can shift x squared and 8x to one side. Okay, that is good because what happens? We have the terms x squared, we have the terms something over x. So definitely we want to sort of segregate them. But, okay, there is a simpler way first, okay, because my coefficients are exactly x squared and 4x in this case. So we want to make sure before we do any shifting, we want to make sure that the coefficients are more or less exactly the same before we do the shifting. So what we can do, actually, 2 to x squared, 8x to 4x. What is this operation we can do to make sure I can turn 2x squared to x and 8 over x to 4x respectively? Okay, what can we do? Very simple, plus minus times divide. So over here, the best thing we can do is to actually just, okay, divide by 2. So you realize by doing this first, okay, the shifting is correct, but by doing this first, we are assured that, oh, I have my x squared, I have my 4x, 4 over x, minus, in this case, 2. Take note, there's a minus 2 over here. Now, that's where we can use the technique of shifting over here. But in this case, before we shift, okay, there is one thing that isn't exactly the same. Look at the question. Question says 3x, negative 3x to be exact. But over here, it is negative 5 over 2x. So somehow, I need that negative 3x to come out. So then you may think, there's no more multiplication I can do over here. If I multiply by 2, in this case, 6 over 5, okay, it will complicate the whole equation. So what we can do over here, here's a technique that you can do, okay, for those who are lost. Okay, we segregate the terms that are already in this equation because this is what we have. This is what is given to us. So what we can do, okay, x squared we have. I have 4 over x. My minus 2 stays over here. I have minus 3x. But these, again, these two are not exactly the same. So definitely, I will have to sort of add or subtract a particular term over here. So what we can do over here is to get from this term to this one and ensuring that it is accurate, we can do a little bit of sec1 stuff over here. We let this be, say, a. Say, for example, we let this be a. So what we can do, okay, so this 2 has to be equal. So negative 2x, 3x plus a is equals to negative 5 over 2x. These two are equal. So to find a in terms of x, this is sec2, okay, so a little bit of technique down here. That's where we can find a. Negative 5 over 2x plus 3x. Okay. Linking it down here, negative 5 over 2 plus 3, that's going to give me negative, or in this case, positive 1 over 2. Okay, you can key in your calculator, negative 5 over 2 plus 3. Without the x, that gives you 1 over 2x. And this is what we have. So therefore, using this concept down here, okay, so this is one way where we can do. If you're unable to find it, introduce a variable that is not too confusing for you. Okay, linear equations, introduce a variable, but it should not be too confusing for you. After that, we can bring it in. So that's where we have x squared minus 3x plus half x. Okay, then we write the remaining term down. Because this is just, sorry, I forgot the 0. None other than this one over here. Then afterwards, okay, what do we need to shift? So can anybody tell me, based on my equation down here, what are the terms I need to shift over? With the red color ones, what are the terms I need to shift over to get to the equation of the straight line? Okay, does anybody wants to try? What are the terms that I should shift? First, second, and fourth. Okay, yes, that's right. Okay, in this case, Denise, you want to shift everything to the right. That's good as well. Yes, that's correct. Anybody else wants to try before I review the answer for those who have actually tried this question? Okay, so I will use Denise's way, but in this case, you can actually keep first, second, and fourth term there and shift the other two. But it's the same thing because essentially we are still deriving at x squared minus 3x minus 4 over, it's plus 4 over x. Okay, if I actually just shift my, in this case, my third term and my fifth term down here, this gives me minus x plus 2. Okay, so in a way, Denise, okay, your method is still correct, but I will keep these three terms and shift the other two. It's the same notion down here. It's equivalent, so it doesn't matter as long as we manage to find out that my equation of my straight line is actually y is equals to this. So you are still correct. Okay, hopefully I'm not writing it in. Okay, you are still correct. Your answer down there. Okay, so that's the main answer, and for those who got it down here, kudos to you. This is answer number 2. That is correct. For those who have actually answered the other one, just be careful with your algebraic manipulation when we are actually finding this one. So that's why I emphasize on this, because that's the main mistake I'm seeing so far. So one way to do it, introduce a variable, solve it as such, instead of trying to guess. Okay, remember when it comes to algebra, introducing another variable may be helpful, but not too many as well. So one is the best. Okay, so I will actually, okay, not yet. Okay, last part for this question, mainly, okay, asking you, because when they ask you to draw this solve for the straight line, they ask you to draw. So more or less again, when you ask you to draw and solve the equation, again, just be careful of the certain estimations. Okay, when you draw this straight line, okay, some of you all may have a different answer a little bit, but it shouldn't deviate too much. In this case, when I do it my 2 times, okay, this answer over here is 1.10, but when I try it on the previous attempt, I get 1.15. So plus minus 0.5 over here, it's okay. Okay, actual answer 1.15, but it shouldn't deviate too much. Okay, so main thing to take note, okay, you may realize this line over here is not relevant to the question, but do take note, okay, when we present the solution, everything should be included, because you're only provided one graph paper. In this question, I know multiple graph papers are provided, sort of, but in your presentation, you should actually have everything over here. So that's one thing you can look out when you present. Everything should be inside in your solutions for part A, part B, part C, part D. Everything should be included. Recall this one is to find the gradient. Leave it there, don't erase. Just include the line over here with my equation, okay? Just write it out. Y is equals to negative half x plus 2. Just write it out and we solve from there. Okay, and then we solve from there. Okay, the rest is estimations. You just be careful not to estimate it a little too far. And this actually boils down to how we draw this graph accurately. Okay, so this is good over here. So I hope everything for this question, it's okay. And in this case, I'll stop a little while. Get your feedback get your feedback over here using the traffic light over here. Okay, so if you are green means all is good. If you are red, okay, so only two colors are green or red. Okay, green means you understand. Red means you need help. Okay, you know what? Green, yellow, and red. Green means you totally understand. Red means half-half. Green means you totally understand. Red, yellow means half-half. Red means you totally don't understand. I will expect a question from you if you need help. Okay, so just launch the feedback before I move on. Okay, so if you are in yellow, okay, just make sure you can type in a response to see where I can help you. Okay, if you are in yellow, you can type in a response to see where I can help you. Okay. Otherwise, I can leave it at the end of the session as a Q&A. So please do ask me so that we have our time spent efficiently between both of us. Okay. It seems like the response is good. Okay, for those in yellow, I'll wait for a while for you to type in, maybe about 1 minute or so. If not, I'll move on. It seems like there's no red. That's a good sign. Okay, I'll give it a while for the next 30 seconds. But for the rest, so this is in how a way they can ask you how we write, or in this case, how we actually do such a question. They'll ask you to find the equation of the line and draw it out. If you were to attend the next mock paper, whereby we'll go through in the next 4 lessons, there will be a similar question gone through like this as well, just that asked in a different manner. How will it be asked? You will see it when you do the paper. Alright, I will not spoil the surprise. Okay, seems like not much question is asked. And in this case, how is it 2 marks? Each answer over here is 1 mark. Okay, and then for the previous one, did I mention the marks? Oh no, I did not. Okay, so 1 mark over here, 1 mark to mention the straight line. Okay, that's the normal marking process. Okay, that's how they check your marks. Okay, now with that, let's move on to the next question. 7B part 1. Look at the question very carefully. I'll give 30 seconds for those who have not attempted the question. Otherwise, for the rest, check through your working before you click in the option that corresponds there. It may be there, it may not be there, but I guess if it's there, it should be a sign that your thought process is correct. If it's not there, double check your working again. I'll launch the bubble launcher in 2:23 past 30 seconds. Read the question carefully, look at the key information before I go through. Whenever there's a lot of information, please remember to break it down. Okay, I'm gonna launch it in the next, I would say, 15 seconds. Sorry, why did I say 1? Alright, so as I'm going through, make sure the key explanations I am going through, make sure you are listening to them. Alright, so it may be a bit it may be a bit overpowering. Like let's say I'm using a cannon to hit like an insect, but just take note, okay, all these key explanations are crucial as well. Sometimes it's good to over-prepare than under-prepare. I'm going to launch the bubble launcher in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, looks good. Okay, what about the other responses? What do I have? Okay, I have looked through the mock paper and I will say it's rather interesting. Okay, challenging, of course, certain questions have to be challenging. If it's all too easy, we will be giving you false confidence to attempt the paper, so that's not nice. But it will be interesting to see how certain questions can be faced. So it will be a mixture, so don't worry. When we set the paper, it won't be all hard or easy. It will be a mixture, okay? Like a question should be. Okay, so let me see the answers. Okay, not too bad. Alright, seeing the responses is all good, but take note on what is given in the question before we answer. Okay, express, okay, typical question, express XQ in terms of A and B. So look at the question. X is a point whereby I have 2 is to 5. So look at the question. So we know this is 2. Label the point. So we know this is 2, this is 5. And also xy to y cube is 2 is to 1. In this case, we don't need that concept over there, but I will just write it down, 2 is to 1. So I want to find, in this case, x cube. Now, firstly, let's identify the vector x cube first. Okay, x cube is this vector over here. Okay, so that means I want the vector to be going this way. Next up, what happens? How do I go from x cube? What are the vectors we know? Now, this vector over here should be there. R cube. It should be there. But next one, you realize I need to then find what is XR. But how do I start from there? XR, in this case, I hope you all realize, it's a proportion of my vector SR, which is parallel to P cube. So, to break it down, we know, in this case, X cube is XR plus R cube. That's what we know based on the diagram. Always break it down. Always annotate. Now, next up, what happens? What is XR? XR is 5 over 7 of P cube because they are parallel. Okay, take note, this is because XR, it's parallel to P cube. And of course, we have the ratio. We have the ratio Sx to XR is 2 is to 5. Okay, and to be clear, actually, I should not write SR, XR, I should write SR, because it's that whole vector I'm looking for. So be clear in your explanations. Once you have this, we know PQ is exactly SR. So 5 over 7 PQ in this case is just A, RQ is just B. So that's why it's 3. Okay, so for those who actually answer the other option, okay, some of you may have mistaken the ratio here. So just be very, very careful, alright, when we actually do the ratio. Very important over here. And then one mark, okay, a lot of steps, but what they actually want you to do, sorry for that, is to actually just write this down and you will be good. The previous part over here is the thought process. Okay, so don't worry, you are wondering whether we need to write all this down. No need, it's for the thought process, but good to write down so that you don't lose this one mark. Okay, now, of course, this is part 1, so definitely part 2 will be asked. So in this case, for the rest who have the answers, okay, very good. For the rest who did not, I will write from the previous part, that particular vector that we have. And usually when the previous part is written, we have to use it. So from this part over here, xq is equals to this one. So definitely we have to use this vector. And how do we solve it? In this case, I'll give an extra minute. I'll launch the bubble launcher at 2:29. For the rest, just check your working as well. And hopefully your thought process, based on the hints I'm giving, should be helpful for you. Okay, so I'll launch the bubble launcher at 2:29. So for those who have done, check your working. Okay, for those who have done, check your working. For those who are doing, you have about 30 seconds left before I launch the bubble launcher. Okay, so for the rest, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask. Okay, I will put in some pockets of Q&A sessions or feedback as well to make sure that you guys understand. Okay? Okay, I'm going to launch it in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Okay, let's go. Okay, that's good. Options are good. Anyone else? Take note of how you form the ratios. Very important. Very, very important. Okay, this one I think I'll have to go through. Okay, last 3 seconds. Okay, now some of you have fallen into the different traps that we have over here, which is firstly, what is the ratio given? Okay, we actually don't need the first ratio already, but rather the second ratio we need. Because, okay, let's focus. This is 2:1. So what happens? Okay, you might have taken the wrong ratio over here. Take note, what are we finding? Finding YR, right? So this is the vector we are finding. And the direction it goes is YQ plus QR. But we are given RQ. So take note, we have to know that my other vector is going the other direction and henceforth minus B. That's the first step that some of you all may have made. Minus B. Okay, so take note, we are doing minus B, not plus B. Okay, that's one thing. Because it's in the opposite direction. So when it's in the opposite direction, it will be multiplying by the minus sign. After that, what we do? Okay, now once we have that first thing, what is YR? That's where we have to get our direction right. Vectors, important thing. Magnitude, not much of an issue, is the direction usually. So we have YR is equals to YQ plus QR over here. Okay, next up, what happens? Okay, what is YQ? YQ, it's actually this part over here. Don't take half, it's not half, it's 1/3. Main important thing. Some of y'all took 2/3 or a different ratio. So in this case, it's 1/3 of, in this case, x cubed given over there. X cubed, you realize that's why we need part 1 over here. So that's why I wrote it down, plus QR. So once you have done this, all you need to do, plug it down, but very careful. First part over here, it's given already 5/7a plus b. QR, this side over here. So it's going to be minus b. Okay, don't write just b. Once we have that, all we need to do, plug in the numbers, solve accordingly. You're going to have 5/21a. 1/3 minus 1 is going to give you minus 2/3. Okay, henceforth my answer over here is number 3. So that's how we get it. Okay, so I hope everything is going well. Okay, moving on as such accordingly. Okay, I hope everything is going well over here as such. Now over here, besides these two questions, one very typical question they like to ask about vectors, besides these two, is area of triangles. Now some of you may think, oh, I need to square. Now take note, this one over here, hint for those who have not done, there's no squaring. So how would we find, take note, okay, this is a bit of layering also, the area of YQR to the area of SQR. Hint over here for the next two who are doing, make use of this information. Okay, I'll wait for your 1 minute for you all to try YQR to, in this case, SQR. So you realize SQR, very weird. It is this triangle down here. Okay, it is not even part of the length that is drawn for this parallelogram. How do I even start? Okay, so that's where, okay, I'm giving you quite some hints for those who have not done, okay, to make this faster. So this is 2, this is 1, the other one, this is 2, this is 5. So how do we do this? Okay, I will start the bubble launcher at 2, 3, 4 past 30 seconds. For those who have done, just check your working again to make sure your option is there. If your option is there, high chance it should be correct. Or should it be? Otherwise, again, check through again. 2:34 past 30, that's where I'll launch the bubble launcher. Okay, last 20 more seconds before I launch the bubble launcher. And for those who are putting in your options, okay, last 3 seconds before I launch the bubble launcher. Alright, let's go. Launching it now. Key in your options. Let's go, let's go. Okay, that's good. Most of you got it down. For the rest, just be careful. Alright, I've given quite some hints here. Be very careful on what we are looking for. Last 5. Last 3. Okay, I realized not too bad at all. So most of you all got this down as such, but you may have taken the wrong ratios based on the responses I'm looking at. So most of you all have known for such questions, we need to find a common height. But in this case, the height may be a bit hard to find in common for these two triangles over here. So that's why you realize, is there a particular triangle I can take to ensure that I can form my common heights? And as I'm talking, you realize as I'm talking, I'm drawing my triangles, and you realize, hey, that is sort of what we need to use. And Denise has said it nicely. We actually need to use this intermediate triangle over here. Thank you for the comment, Denise, to actually express my thoughts even much better. And in this case, yes, this is one question whereby the common height may not be directly used in one step. You may have to find, in this case, what Denise mentioned, an intermediate triangle or a transition triangle, whichever fits into this question. So, thank you for the note. I hope you all got the comment down. Once we realize, intermediate triangle, you realize there's a common height for the first triangle between YQR and XQR over here, where my common height is this one over here. So that's one. Maybe my common height, I call it H1, and the other common height of XQR and SQR. Okay, the common height may not be inside. It can be outside as well. And let me call this H2. So once you have that, okay, you realize we are not really emphasizing on the ratios of similar areas, even though they are similar, but we are not really squaring them because we know the areas of the triangle. Okay? We only square them if we are only using one particular side. But in this case, we indirectly know that we know all sides, because let's focus on the first area down here, the red and the yellow highlighted regions, which is area of YQR over area of XQR. Okay, area of triangle, half times YQR, in this case, common height times the relevant sides, bases that we have to recur, which is 1. Next one, half times the common height, not 2, times, in this case, the common side, which is, in this case, take note, don't take 2, is this whole side over here, guys. Is this whole side, because the whole yellow triangle is over there. So that is going to be 3. Then from there, we cancel the common term. 1, 2, 2 over here. Okay, the halves and my heights get cancelled. And my ratio is 1:3. Whereby, if you are confused of what 1 is, refer to the diagram at the top. I have YQ. I have XQ over here. Okay, once we have that, how can we link the intermediate triangle? That's where we have area of the intermediate triangle, the yellow color one, to the area of the big triangle, in this case, SQR. So that's where, again, half, in this case, my common height is H2, alright? And for the yellow triangle, it's going to be the base now, it's 5. So you have to find the correct base when talking in reference to the common height for the triangle. Alright, very important. And the other one is going to be half times H/2 times, again, my whole length, guys, my whole length. So this is the whole length I'm looking for SQR. Okay, it's not exactly straight. Let me draw again. SQR. So that's where I have 7, henceforth, cancelling the common terms, I have 5/7. And that's where you all realize, oh, some of you all click 5/7, it is over there. But take note, I'm looking for the ratio of YQR to SQR. Okay, so you realize these are opposite ends. So in your set 1 in ratios, what you have touched on so far, okay, let me just write this down. 5 is SR, 7 is, in this case, SR, sorry, 5 is XR, 7 is SR. Sorry, they sound very equal. So we actually have to form a ratio between YQR and SQR. So important step first is to actually form and see the ratios first. So I have these two ratios. Once we have them, 1:3, 5:7. We have to make XQR the same. Okay, so all these should be familiar to you. We know in this case we should times, in this case, 3. No, times 5, sorry for that. Times 5 over here, and over here I times 3 over here. This then gives me 5. Okay, 15, and 21. So you realize now the common numbers are common. We can make this into one ratio, but take note, to save step, we just need these two numbers. YQR to SQR. So therefore, this is my answer. And of course, to write it nicely, I'll write my final answer here. Sorry for that. Okay, just write it out to simplify it. YQR to SQR. This is 5:21. To finalize your steps. Okay, how to know where the marks are coming from? Answer mark definitely here. Okay, 1 mark comes from how you actually link. Where do I write it? Okay, link all this. Okay, so you don't have to write all this, but as long as you show signs of combining the ratios, that is enough. Okay, combining the ratios, that is enough. Okay, so that is your 1 mark over here. Okay, so I hope you all got this down over here, and let me launch the feedback as well. Green if you understand everything, yellow if you're half, and red if you need help. I expect your comment down there. Okay, or in this case, if you're yellow half, there's a little Q&A that I can as well. Not in yes, vector should not be in NA, that's right. But again, if you're taking the O level soon, it should, this type of questions are very common. Okay, so if you do not understand, please, okay, understand. So this should not be coming out. I hope you are, this should not, vectors is not in NA, yes, vectors is not in NA, so just take note. Okay, good, alright, so I believe the yellow one, the red one, I believe that's the question you're asking. Okay, then for the yellow one, if you are not typing, I hope you are typing it in the, you're asking me the Q&A, and for the green ones, that's good. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, trigo number 3. Alright, so for the first one, okay, quite straightforward. I would say, why is it quite straightforward? Because look at the question, identify what is given to you. Bearings of C from B, that is one thing we need to take note. C from B, so this one we know is 68. Okay, are we using this yet? Not really, but what happens? You may have to use it later for the further parts. That's why there's part A over here. 3 marks, how do we get? Now, calculate angle ACB. In this case, all 3 sides are given, so usually what we do, if all 3 sides are given, one way to do it is cosine rule because of your A square, B squares, and C squares over there. So when we find angles, use the alternative form. Mark number 1, showing use of cosine rule or sine rule if you are using it. Okay. Mark number 2, when you apply the inverse to get me to the sides, and lastly A1 for the answer. So that's a few things to take note over here. Remember, how do we know cosine rule is used correctly? This is the angle, the opposite side is here, so take note, this is my A square. So just take note, we are summing the 2 sides that surrounds my angle, so that's where B square plus C square minus A square, and then a 2BC comes here. So take note, and then alternatively, just remember the mistakes that may happen is somehow or other, some of y'all may actually key in your answer in radians. So just be careful. It's not in radians, it's in degrees for this case, okay? It's in degrees. Why do we know in degrees? Bearing is given in degrees. So standardize in degrees. Okay, so these are the few things to take note. And for angles, standardize regardless if questions never specify what nearest number to round to. For angles in degrees, always remember 1 decimal place. Okay, M1, A1 for the 3 marks. Okay, next up, with this, can branch off. How do we find the bearing of B from A? So that's where, in this case, this might come in handy. Okay, let me give the 68 and B from A. So I'm giving you quite some hints here for those who may fall into the mistake. B from A. So what angle are we finding? Okay, take note. This is gonna be my, okay, let me draw my north line a bit shorter because I think it will exceed the slide. This is my north line. Okay, so I think this one requires some manipulation. So I'll give you all some time to solve this. Maybe I'll launch the bubble launcher at 2:47. All right, 2:47. Okay, for those who have done, make sure your option is there. Okay, and take note, you realize this sentence may seem a little bit unnecessary, but it is required when you solve. Again, too much hints. And for those who check the question, just make sure it's checked. Make sure your workings are there and what your options should be there. Keyword should be. Okay, I'll give you all 1 minute. So Pranav, what happens is if I write all the values, it might be too clear. So, oh yes, I think one of the values that I need to write for you is this one. Yep, that's right, sorry for that. But in this case, I don't even need this value. Again, too much hints over here. But if you need, okay, I can write this down. This is given in part A. So suppose if you are using another rule, we can use this one as well. But that should be the value. Yeah, that should be the value enough. No worries, these are all the values we need from the question. Okay, I'll launch it in the next 30 seconds, no worries for now, but these are the values given in the question that you should need. Launching the bubble launcher in the next 10 seconds. Alright, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Over here. Okay, that's good. I realize some of y'all actually went to use the other rule, but it's okay. Just make sure you know what angles to take. Awesome, nice. That's good to hear, Pranav. Good to hear. Good to hear. Good to hear. Good to hear. Sorry for that. Awesome. Let me take a look at the responses. Wow, 30 seconds passed very fast. Okay, most of you got it down, but some of you may have made a mistake. So how do we approach this? My solution here requires me to use yep, that's right. You have to do that. You have to do that. So the way to do this is you have to find. In this case, let me just extend this line here. You have to find what Pranav mentioned. That is right. Yep, that is correct actually. It's correct actually, which I will emphasize to everyone. Thank you, Pranav. But what you have to do first, because to find the bearing of B from A. Now we try to backtrack. B from A. Okay, so A we know is over here. Bearing of B from A. So it just means from A to B. So we have to find this angle, but how do we find? Let's backtrack a little bit. You realize my two north lines, because they are both pointing north, so they have to be parallel, right? So this is parallel to this one. So when it comes to parallel lines, magically your Sec 1 basic geometry concept should come into play, your ZFC. So in this case, this looks like my alternative angle. So when I have my alternative angle, you realize this is equals to this. And oh, I know this is 68. If I happen to know ABC, I subtract 68. Don't I get this answer? So let's find ABC then. And that's where the mistake comes in. Why do I say so? Because I do this by cosine rule. Sine rule is also fine, but cosine rule is safer because it takes into consideration of what happens if you have two answers. It is possible to have two answers. For sine rule, that's the ambiguity. If you use cosine rule, in this case, b squared plus c squared. You realize my b's and c's are different now, so be very, very careful. Minus a squared. My b's and c's are very, very different because this is the parts that surrounds the angle. B's and c's. And this is my ABC. Minus A squared, which is this is the side that is the opposite. Okay, so take note of the sides that you might have encountered. Opposite over here. Okay, this is very important. You realize if I solve this, I get a particular answer, which is ABC is equals to 94. Then for those who use cosine sine rule, you may say, teacher, I did not get that. I get 86 point something. If I can't remember what's the value, but 85 point something. Then realize, how do I ensure that I get this answer? If you use cosine rule, this should come out straight away, so this should make sense. If you use sine rule, you'll get the acute angle. So the ideal way to get the obtuse will be, for sine rule, for those who use sine rule, is 180 minus the angle you got, which you should get this one. So just be very careful, and once you get that, then you can find, in this case, the green angle over here, no, blue angle over here. I think blue, yellow gives me green, that's right. Which is this whole angle minus 68, and that gives me, in this case, 26. So once you get that down, you realize, oh, okay, I have the other angle. So let me introduce a few points over here. Suppose I call this Y, and oh, I didn't realize I forgot to introduce points. You are wondering where the X comes from. Suppose I call this X. So therefore, again, if I introduce these 2 points, YAB, okay, you have to elaborate these steps. Is equals to ABX. This is equals, okay, this is again because you use this for a reason. Alternative angles, YA, BX. Therefore, this boils down to 26.7203 degrees. After that, bearing, how do we solve? Again, the bearing is my whole angle down here. So therefore, what we need to do is just 180 minus that angle, which you will get the answer. So most of the errors actually comes from, in this case, come from finding the angles respectively using your trigonometry, and because using your basic geometry concepts as well. So therefore, when we use concepts from there, you actually have to state the reason. Again, quite lengthy, but if you want to get the marks, you have to state the reason. And this brings down to, in this case, 153.2797. Bring it down to 1 dp 153. Okay, take note, don't leave it as 153, 153.3. Okay, question never says to 2 significant figures for the answer, so you have to leave it as such. 153 over here. Okay, so this is the notion. For those who answer 105, you might have gotten the angle for this. Okay, up to the line AC. No, we want it to go from B, because it's bearing from B from A, not to C from A. So read the question carefully. Okay, now if this is what happens, let's go down to my last 2 questions, all right, before I get the Q&A session to sum up everything. I think it's a little bit erratic to keep asking, so I'll finish off the last 2 questions that I want to go through. Again, where does my 3 marks come from? First question, first part is to find my ABX. Second part to find YAB. Third part to find the bearing. Okay, so this is the notion down here. Now, next one, very interesting conversion question over here. I will give you 30 seconds extra, in this case, to go through this, to write this out, okay, before I actually launch the bubble launcher. So I'll launch the bubble launcher at 2:54. Alright, launching in the next 5 seconds. Okay, I'm gonna launch it now. Let's go. Let's see my options down here. Okay, very nice. That's good. Okay, so this question 9 is actually the last question of the paper 2, which you realize it's a real world context question. Okay, so very important down here. Okay, some of you now read the question carefully. Look at what they want. Okay, let me take a look. Okay, most of you all got this down. Alright, I think for the 5 of you all, please remember to attempt the mock paper so they are able to do this accordingly with me. Now, what happens? No worries, Center, this is a little fast, so I will do this together with you all. Now, over here, take note, the model of the house, you have to convert it accordingly. So, we know 1 cm is to 30 cm over here. Question gives you in cube. So, therefore, we have to cube it as well. So, 1 cm cube is to 30 cm cube over here, whereby 1 cm cube is to 27000 cm cube. Next up, capacity of the model house. Now take note, 1 cm over here is the model, so we have to correspond together carefully. So that's where we have 1818 cm cube. This is equals to, in this case, a very big number, 49808,600. How many zeros are there? 3 zeros. Cm cube over here. But now take note, I want to calculate the capacity of the actual pool. This is the actual pool in gallons. It's in cm cube. So we actually need to find out how much 1 gallon is to cm cube. How do we do so? That's where this information is needed over here, which we have to do the conversions. And that's where, if you want, you can do it in one separate step. 1 gallon is equals to 4546 liters over here. Bring it down further, we know this is equals to 4546 milliliters, and milliliters is equals to cm cube. So therefore, we know that since 1 gallon is equals to 4546 cm cube. Again, these are all your conversions. Okay, if you need help in the conversions, there's a Q&A later. Feel free to ask me from there. Again, we want to know how much 1 cm cube is because we are given the units in terms of cm cube, but we want it in gallons. So that's where we have to do this conversions down here to give me 4546, and this is equals to 1079. Sorry for that, 1079, 7.624 gallons. Okay, but take note they want to the nearest gallon, so remember to do your rounding carefully. Which, okay, most of you didn't fall into the trap. That's good. Okay, rounding, I will just leave it up over here. Thank you for the note, moderator. I'll end it when necessary. Round it up to 10798 gallon because I want to the nearest gallon. Okay, this is to the nearest gallon. Okay, so that is what we have over here as such when we are doing our rounding henceforth over here. Some of you all forget to convert and just take this answer. Take note over here. We want to the nearest gallon, so look at the conversions carefully. Okay, yeah, this is the answer. Now the last question, it's very long, so I will just explain it briefly, so just bear with me for those who need further calculations, okay? So this is a 6-mark question that we are going through, not this one. Okay, so how does just 3 mark go by? 1 mark for this conversion, 1 mark for this one as well, 1 mark for my nearest gallon. Okay, now for 6 marks, what they are looking for in question 9C, a lot of information. So that's the crux of the question they are looking for. So that's where we have to understand what the question is asking for, which I'll briefly say a few things, okay? 1, okay, paint the exterior of the house, that's one thing, okay? Exterior house, how much? Okay, total house of the exterior of the model house. Now over here, take note, the model is given. Okay, this is 1:30. This is the model. Okay, of course your house is not so small. If it's so small, then I don't know how we are going to squeeze in. Okay, so how much do we need to paint? 1 layer of primer and 2 layers of paint. Okay, so take note, 2 layers of paint down here. So I'll backtrack between the two slides over here to bear with me. I'll exceed a little bit because this might require quite some explanation. So just bear with me. 1 layer of primer and 2 layers of paint are needed for the exterior wall. Okay, information. So that's where you need to highlight. 1 layer, how much can 1 liter do? 1 liter for 1 layer. Okay, and this one, 7 square meters of the wall with 1 layer. But take note, paint has 2 layers, so when you calculate certain things, you have to take note with 1 liter as well. So how do we go through this? These are all the numbers that you need. Contractor A, contractor B, that's the conversion. So determine which contractor they should engage means we want the lower price. So that's where we have to calculate. A lot of calculations. So first, let's convert. Hey, we know 5367 is the model house. So with this ratio, we have to convert to the model house first, which we get this one. 43483. Now 483 over here, how many layers we need to cover? For primer, we need 1 layer. For 1 layer, it covers this amount. So we need to calculate how many liters we need. So that's where, how many liters you realize? 1 layer, 6.5. So if we take this one, divide by this one, that's for the liters of primer. So a lot of information. Next one over here, liters of paint. Now, why you realize over here, I need to multiply by 2? Because I need 2 layers of paint. So this is my house. I paint it 2 times. And it covers, 1 layer covers 7 square meters. So the 2 already covers, divide by 7, gives me this amount. Now back to this, okay, liters of primer. This is the amount to what we have. Okay, each can in this case for contractor A is 20 liters. So that's where I divide by, okay, a lot of information down there, so just bear with me, 20 liters. And for contractor for the paint, 5 liters. So that's where I do it for, 5 liters. Respectively with these numbers over here. Okay, so again, even though the number is low, we round it up to ensure that we have enough. We don't want to just paint part of the house. So we round it up, and therefore 4 for the primer, in this case, multiply by 88. Because 1 is 88. How much is 4? Similarly for 5, 1 is $98.90. How much is 5? Okay, so therefore, no, how much is 28? Sorry, 28, sorry, not 5. So 4 times the price for A, 28 for the price of B, this is your total cost. So this one, 3 marks. Okay, next up, how are the marks delivered? Again, sorry for that. Liters of primer, liters of paint, calculate this 1 mark. Number of cans, number of paint, all this for 1 mark. Okay, let me just write it down. 1 mark here, 1 mark here, total cost here. Next one, we have to do the same thing for your B. Again, B a little bit different because if you refer, right now your cans are given in terms of 5 liter and 20 liter. So therefore, that's why your division is a little bit different. 5 liter, 4, let's recap. Okay, primers over here we need. Okay, because of the house, I backtrack the explanation. 74 over here, and 20 liters because it's given in 20 liters. Over here, with this amount. Okay, so that's why 5 and 20 comes into play, and we do the necessary calculation, rounding up. 15 times the price, 27.50 over here, and 380, which will be for this number. Plus the cost, remember, take note, if you see the table, there's an additional cost we need to consider as well. Contractor B is 2200. Service fee have to count. Service for A is 2500. So that's why, I forgot to mention, contractor A 2500 is here. Contractor B 2200 is here. So this is the total cost. And you recall, A is this, B is this. So that's why we need to engage contractor A. Understand this question is a little bit long, alright? So that's why in this case, finalizing, this is 1 mark, this is 1 mark, and henceforth, this whole explanation is 1 mark. So that's how you get 6 marks. Understand this question is a little bit hard, a lot of linking to do, so that's why if you need further help, Q&A session later, feel free to ask me ahead. Just make sure your answers are relevant from here. Okay, that's it for me today, and you realize for explanation like this, you have to get your thought process, be clear and concise when explaining necessary calculations, not too much, easy to understand language as well. So that's all for me today. Thank you everyone for staying with me. Alright, so if you need any help, I'll be staying here for about 4 to 5 minutes to explain any questions. Otherwise, take care, stay safe. I'll see you all next time, next week. Okay, remember to do the mock paper, guys. Set A so that our lessons can go better. Alright, thank you everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.